In this episode, I'm going to give you my recommendations for week 5 of the fantasy basketball season for the Sleeper app. Now let's make some game picks. Welcome to the Game Pick Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Robbin Marx. You can connect with me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Game Pick Podcast. If you love fantasy basketball points leagues, dynasty, and sleepers new game pick format, please consider subscribing on all channels. And please stick around until the end because I'm going to share the game pick sleeper of the week. Now, quick disclaimer. At the time of recording this, I'm in the process of grieving for my brother that passed away. I thought to myself, should I take the week off and not do the show? And it's a new podcast, right? And already in the last couple of weeks, I see that we are building and growing, and it's starting off small. The numbers are low, but at the same time, there's still numbers. And whether we're serving one person or 100 people or 1 million people, we still want to offer the same level of quality. So I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. And also, I think bigger than that, I wanted to make sure that for my brother, that I kept pushing through. And I know that we had been talking for the last couple of months about him starting a career as a streamer with video games because he really loved video games. And I was telling him about my journey on YouTube and also online and just building my presence. And this is something that he wasn't aware of. He didn't know that I was starting this basketball podcast. He had been battling a severe heart disease or heart condition for the last couple of months. And I didn't want to, I just didn't tell him about it. But I know right now that he would be watching over me saying like, oh my God, like push through. So I wanted to let you know that this episode, week 5 of the fantasy basketball season, for this podcast is dedicated to my brother, Kevin Nathaniel. So now that I got that out of the way, why don't we jump into the big time game picks for week 5 of the NBA season. Number 1, Demar DeRozan. Demar DeRozan has 4 games this week. And, he's in a position where he has been the primary scoring option for most of his career. And now he's kind of playing second fiddle to Zach LaVine. He's almost like the 1B to Zach LaVine's 1A. Vucevic, the center who came from Orlando to Chicago, he was also a primary scoring option for most of his career. So, and again, LaVine kind of built up to become the primary option early on in his career. When he played for Minnesota, he was actually like a number 2 to Karl Anthony Towns. And he didn't really have the keys to the car until he got to Chicago. And since then he's thrived. So for DeMar coming into this role, some people weren't sure if there were going to be enough touches for all of them. And DeMar has shown that there are more than enough touches for him and Zach LaVine. The odd man out is Vucevic. He is not having the kind of season that people expected for him. And his numbers have decreased dramatically from where he was in Orlando. And if people drafted him in the first and second round in their drafts, they kind of feel cheated right now. For DeMar, many people were drafting him later. He has been a great value and has been offering a mighty, mighty return to anyone who invested any draft capital in him during draft season. So I would say DeMar DeRozan is the man. I don't have any stakes across all of my teams and on all platforms in all leagues. But I would say if you have him, hold on to him. If he's in your league and he has a bad game, especially for redraft leagues, if he has a bad game, I would send some offers over to see if you could grab him. So my pick for DeMar DeRozan would be the Monday game at LA against the Lakers. And if you didn't know, DeMar DeRozan is from LA. So he's probably going to have a lot of people in attendance. So that's one of the reasons that I selected that game. Next up, let's talk about Lamelo Ball. Lamelo Ball. Lamelo has 3 games in week 5, including a back-to-back on the Friday and Saturday. And I want to be really, really, mindful about LaMelo's status coming into the league for fantasy purposes. I'm just talking fantasy right now. People faced drafting him with a little bit of trepidation. They weren't sure about drafting him, right? So rookies have proven in fantasy basketball. I've been playing fantasy basketball for almost 10 years now, and rookies often disappoint. So you don't want to spend a lot on a rookie. You want to get them later. But in many of my leagues, LaMelo was going a lot earlier than expected, and people who drafted him were rewarded his rookie year. Now, where he is now, I feel like he has the potential to become a top 10, maybe even top 15 fantasy player. He is so amazing. Like watching him, it's like watching a magician, do their greatest tricks all game long. So I would say if you don't have him, that again, very similar to Demar DeRozan, pay attention to him, put him on your watch list, and pay attention to when he has a bad game. If LaMelo Ball has a bad game, I would package up some players and try to see if you can get that owner to make a deal with you, because especially in dynasty leagues, you can throw some really expensive pieces at him to see if you could tempt an owner to trade him. So I would spare no expense to bring LaMelo home in a dynasty league, because I believe he'll be a top 5 player in fantasy in the next two years, So I would strongly recommend keeping an eye out, put him on your watch list if you don't have him. My game pick for LaMelo Ball would be the Wednesday game versus Washington. It is also his highest projected point total. Giannis Antetokounmpo. He has 3 games scheduled for week 5. On November 7th against Washington, Giannis put up 29 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block. In week 5, he has a back-to-back on the Friday and Saturday. And right now, as at the time of recording this video and this podcast, he is the number 2 player in most fantasy points leagues. So Giannis is living up to the hype as always. He is one of the most dominant forces in fantasy sports. So if you have him, bravo to you. If you don't have him, I don't think you'll be able to pull off a trade unless he gets injured, God forbid. So my game pick for Giannis would be the Friday game versus OKC, and that is his highest projected point total. CJ McCullum. CJ has 3 games, and right now, at the time of recording this, he has 2 games that he was kind of, underperforming. I would say Portland as a whole has kind of been a little wonky. Dame hasn't been really performing. I think they could play Nurk some more minutes. And, it's Chauncey Billups' first season as their head coach. So I imagine there's some growing pains that are going to occur for the entire team. But right now, it's a little concerning. However, I believe CJ is going to be okay. He's a super consistent fantasy player. I hope you guys don't hear those sirens. That's really weird. Not in a big city. But anyway, so for CJ, I would say that I would play him for my game pick. I would play him on the Saturday versus Philadelphia. Please note that on Thursday and Friday, CJ has 2 days off. So he's going to be off on Thursday. He's going to be off on Friday. Then they're going to come back on Saturday to play Philly. He's going to be well rested, and there's no Ben Simmons there. He's going to eat. He's going to feast. So I would strongly recommend playing CJ McCollum on the Saturday for week 5 versus Philly. Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has 4 games, including a back-to-back on the Wednesday and Thursday. My game pick for Jimmy would be the Saturday at Washington. Chris Paul. Chris Paul has 4 games, no back-to-backs, My game pick for Chris Paul would be the Monday at Minnesota. Dejounte Murray, just two games for week 5. I would say that he is ranked very high right now. I think, he's in the top 20 right now, maybe higher. For Murray, people are asking, is he for real? I'm seeing it on the forums. I'm seeing it on the Discords. Is Murray's output for real? And that's a great question. So do you hold on to him? Do you try to trade him high? I have been waiting for him to take off. Like, literally, there was one year that I held him a whole year that he was injured in Dynasty, thinking he would come back and do this. But I finally gave up. I don't know if I traded him, dropped him. I don't know what happened, but I don't have him on any of my rosters right now, especially my Dynasty rosters, which is heartbreaking, right? Here's what I would say to Murray's output, that there is some truth there. DeRozan's gone. Aldridge is gone. There's a lot of opportunity for him to be the guy. And he's young, he's fierce, he's tenacious, he's consistent, and he's a well-rounded fantasy player. So you're going to get a lot of different stats, a lot of different stat lines filled up and boxes filled up by Murray. So I would strongly recommend, if you don't have him, again, wait for him to have a bad game and send some offers. If you have him, kudos to you. My game pick for Murray is going to be Thursday at Minnesota. It is also his highest projected point total. And now what you've been waiting for, the game pick sleeper of the week. This one is something that I wouldn't have expected in week 5 that I'd be doing, but here we go. Josh Giddey from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yo, he is a dark horse candidate for Rookie of the Year. Mark my words. Dark horse candidate. He's playing about, I want to say 28 minutes a game. So he's getting tons of playing time alongside SGA. So it's not like he's not getting the opportunity. They're putting him in the lineup now. He is a part of their young core, and he is going to thrive long-term for fantasy. However, for this week, I would strongly recommend, if he's not in your starting lineup, to move him to your starting lineup. He has 4 games this week. He has a back-to-back on the Friday and the Saturday. My game pick of the week, my sleeper of the week. The game pick is Monday versus Miami. Play Josh Giddey, and you will be rewarded handsomely. Now, hold up. Did I forget or fail? I should say, did I fail you? Did I fail to mention your players? I can't possibly give picks for every player in the league. So drop a comment with your requests, or if you go to anchor.fm/gamepick podcast, you can leave a voice note and leave your player. I'll even include you in the episode if I can. And let me know what players you want me to give you game picks for. I'd love to have you involved, and let's just connect on that level. I think it will be dope. Also, please join our brand new Discord group if you need help with game picks, trade advice, dynasty questions, team names, the works. All you have to do is hit the link in the YouTube description of this episode. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, share with a friend, hit us with a hacksaw Jim Duggan, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's very important. Thanks for joining me. I hope you absolutely crush your league this week. Now get out of here and go make some game picks.